Hello, I'm Dieter Loosemore and welcome to Win Some Lose More, and you join me for a mechanisms video where I pick one of the ways that games work, try and explain what the term might mean, how it applies to gaming, and suggest a couple of games that you might want to check out. Now, very early on in this series I spoke about a well-known game called Yahtzee, but focused on the dice rolling system of the saving some and re-rolling to gain whatever it is you want to do. I want to take kind of the other half of what that game is and talk about that. That is what we now call roll and write. This has evolved into other forms of this mechanism like flip and fill, which we'll talk about in a minute. But essentially a roll and write is exactly as it says. You roll some dice, and depending on the values you write those in to whatever it is. For Yahtzee, it's just you're trying to get different combinations or different numbers, and so when you roll those, you fill them in. It's nice and simple. As I say, this has developed into something like a flip and fill, where instead of rolling dice, the randomization is a deck of cards, and whatever is flipped over, you have to fill that in somewhere on your board, your map, your sheet, whatever it might be. Now, these by very nature are it's a very abstract mechanism. It doesn't feel like you're doing whatever it is if there's a theme that you're supposed to be doing, and so some of these games like Yahtzee are purely just numbers or symbols, whatever it might be. So ganz schön clever, you're very clever, or whatever it translates to, is just numbers. That's what it is. You're drafting numbers and just filling out your board, and then when you fill in a particular number of colours within a particular category, then other stuff triggers. So it's got more than just the Yahtzee filling in the sheet, but it is still just those numbers are those numbers, that's it. That's not one I've played. The more abstract ones are not really, they don't interest me as much as some of the ones that at least attempt or pretend to have a theme. There's a couple in my collection. So King Domino is a domino game, but then they came out with a roll and write 2-player only called King Domino Duel, which I've done a review of, I believe. And instead of numbers, it's shields, it's like clan symbols, and as you roll these, you're trying to, on your territory sheets, just a sheet of paper, you're trying to get contiguous groups together so they multiply and score more points as they go, and the more in this case crosses, again it's quite abstract, but leaders you have within a clan, that's the multiplier. So the number of shields by the number of X's, that's how much that area is worth. And so that's a nice, very simple back and forth. You take it in turns, you draft the dice. We've spoken about drafting before. I take one, you take two, I get the remaining one, or vice versa. It's a little snake draft type thing. And so you're just doing the best that you can. What makes this one a little bit more interesting is there's a central sheet where every time you take a die of a particular face, you go up little tracks, and then if you're the first person to fill up one of these tracks, you gain a special power, like not having to make a domino out of the dice. You can split up the faces and put them wherever you like on your board, or you get to take both of your dice first when you're drafting. Whatever it might be, you get to trigger these one-time events going on. So that's an interesting take. Probably my favourite one at the moment is actually a series of games at this point, but all variations on a very similar thing called Railroad Inc., where again the faces of the dice are not numbers, but they are either shapes of road or railroad. And you are, with the dry wipe, always love dry wipe, don't know why, just the component I enjoy. Again, somebody rolls the dice and everybody has to use all the faces and fill it out somewhere on your board, and you have definite starting points, and you're trying to connect railway to railway, roads to roads. If you get if you use those rules and fill in the center, you get points for as many of the center places as you go. There are special powers that again you can choose. Everybody's got access to the same, let's say, powers. They're more complex combinations of railroad and roads that don't appear anywhere on the dice, and you might just need to use that one to link up everything you were trying to achieve and do all that kind of thing. And then each Railroad Inc. comes with other dice. I've got the blue and the green versions, and so there's like forests that you can do which score in different ways, or a river or a lake which score in different ways. So it just mixes up the game that a little bit more, adds a little bit more complexity. I tend to currently stick to the base game, but that's just because I'm still getting used to it, and I'm still at the point of still teaching people, finding opportunities to play it. But it stops it feeling so abstract, because railroads are something I know. I've been on trains and I drive, so I know what cars are like, and roads are like, and not the design of them is something I've ever thought of, but it's something I can connect to. Abstract numbers, or even the shields from King Domino Duel, aren't things that I can connect to as much. So this theme allows me to enjoy this game a little bit more, so that might be one to consider. I know other popular ones that I haven't tried. One of the, let's mention two fill and fills. Welcome To is a very simple one where you're filling in a neighborhood, and depending on the different cards that come out each time, you've got to put it in particular places, maybe add a pool or whatever it might be, fences. You're trying to get different neighborhoods together to score different things. Or a very popular themed one at the moment is Cartographers, in which I think you're building out a map of your region, but then bad stuff can happen, and how it scores is done in different ways. So that seems a very popular, clever one. I'd like to try it out at some point. If you have any experience with any of these games, do stick them down in the comments. Tell me what you think of them. I'd love to hear that as well. But that's the essential core of roll and write, or flip and fill, whatever it might be. A randomized thing appears outside of anybody's control, and then you must use that information or symbols or whatever it might be to write into your, or fill in your board, map, whatever it might be. Generally they're lighter, not always. I had one before that was quite a bit heavier, and we're starting to see it branch out. There's lots of them at this point. What do you think of them? Are you familiar with roll and writes? Do these seem like something that you would be interested in? Do stick that down in the comments below. I'll be back soon with another video. Do consider subscribing to this channel if you don't already, and hit the bell icon so you stay updated when I put out new things. In the meantime, all the usual social media stuff, Instagram, whatnot, just search Win Some Lose More on the various platforms. Be sure to find me. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again soon. I've been Dieter for Win Some Lose More. Bye.